Good morning. My name is Ariel Tabson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Today, we're starting a new chat series called Talking Traffic Safety. The series will explore various traffic safety issues facing drivers and roadway users. In celebration of National Child Passenger Safety Week, Talking Traffic Safety is being streamed live from the Otter Facebook page. So feel free to explore Ollie Otter's Facebook page for more information and resources. This is pretty much your hub. This is your main location for information relating to occupant protection for children. So please take advantage of that and reach out to us, of course, for more information. Today's event will feature 3 panelists serving as subject matter experts. I will serve as your moderator by presenting topics and questions for our experts to discuss. If you would like to participate, please submit your questions live in the comments section. Each question I mentioned will appear on the screen below. If we don't get to your question during the show, no worries. Please email jbrewer@tntech.edu so we can answer you. So again, if there's any questions you have that we don't address today, please email the email on your screen below so that we can make sure we get that information to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We're very, very excited to be here today. This is our first time doing anything like this. So get engaged with us, send us your feedback, and join the conversation. Let's go ahead and introduce our panel. Our first guest is Julie Brewer from the Tennessee Occupant Protection Center. Welcome, Julie. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Hey, everybody.
Tell us about you and what you do.
So I'm the director of the newly established Tennessee Occupant Protection Center at the iCube at Tennessee Tech University under a grant from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Our goal is to connect communities and public and private agencies and other partners to the resources that will improve the safety of all people traveling on our roadways, from children to adults. There are currently over 140 fitting stations across the state. Because this is Child Passenger Safety Week, we're going to emphasize our fitting stations and the resources that they can provide. So at those 140 fitting stations, they're manned by a child passenger safety technician, which is someone who's been trained with the basic knowledge of, well, sorry about that. Don't know what happened. Anyway, we've had some, those child passenger safety fitting stations and the technicians that are there can work directly with parents and the communities to give proper education, proper seat installation techniques, and guidance to those families. Car seats have come a long way. All the technologies in our vehicles, advancements, and that combination can be really confusing and sometimes frustrating for parents. So the technicians in the field can offer that extra guidance and hands-on support when the families come and visit them at those fitting stations. So programs that we help facilitate through the Occupant Protection Center. We also have an education program for our elementary schools called the Ollie Otter Seatbelt and Booster Seat Education Program. This has been it's a long-running program. It's been around since 2008, visiting our elementary schools with a mascot otter, of course, the Ollie Otter mascot, and he would love to come visit the schools to teach kids the proper use of seatbelts and booster seats, because most of our children under the age of 12 could still benefit from the use of a booster seat. So we teach those kids the good habit of buckling up at a young age the right way, so when they become our teen drivers and then our regular drivers, that they are following those good habits with that instilled habit. So this is a program that's free to all elementary schools across the state. We have lots of partners that get involved with it, from highway patrol, local law enforcement, paramedics, EMS, fire stations, lots of other agencies that benefit from us reducing traffic injury and fatality related things that are happening to our families. So that program, because of the ages that we're living in, has gone virtual. So we can also still engage your classrooms through online virtual presentations. And we love to engage those kids in a new and innovative way. So check out Ollie's Classroom if you're a teacher or homeschooling parent, we can get those kids that information too. So we look forward to the days when we can return to in-person activities, but until then, we're going to try to keep engaging through the virtual classroom. So in a nutshell, get in touch with Ollie the Otter.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So can you tell us one more time, what should parents do if they want Ollie Otter to come to their child's school?
So you can email Ollie at ollieotter.org, or you can contact Ollie through olliesclassroom@gmail.com. That means register a presentation with Ollie. It could be a one-on-one presentation, can be a large broadcast, a live broadcast through YouTube. But every time we engage with somebody in the community in a classroom or in a one-on-one setting, we have resources that we'll be able to provide, which includes measuring posters, activity guides, those types of things that would keep the discussion going with the kids so they get the full picture of traffic safety and what it means to ride safely as a passenger. Okay.
Can parents find this information on the Ollie Otter website? What is the Ollie website?
Yeah, you can find it at ollieotter.org is a great place to look, but then there's also, you can find us on Facebook too. So it's Ollie Otter TN.
Right here on Facebook. Ollie Otter Facebook page is where everything you need to know. Thank you so much, Julie, for introducing yourself. We're going to bring in our next panelist, who is Pranima Uni from the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. So welcome, Pranima. Hi. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Tell us about you and what you do.
So my name is Pranima Uni, and I am the Pediatric Trauma Injury Prevention Program Manager for Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. That's a mouthful, I know. So basically, I manage all the safety and outreach program for the Children's Hospital, and we have a number of programs that we do there to serve the community as well. So we have a motor vehicle safety program, especially for teens, called Be in the Zone, all focused around distracted driving. We know our kids need a ton of help around that, as so do we. We also have an ATV safety program for our rural kids and youth, because we see a lot of injuries coming in from ATVs. And then within the umbrella of motor vehicle safety, we have our child passenger safety program. And that, again, covers anything from parent education. So we work with underserved communities through the Women and for Children program, through the refugee groups, just educating everyone on the importance of child passenger safety and why they need to have their kids in a car seat, quite frankly. And then we also work with elementary schools, similar to Ollie the Otter, but we do offer presentations. Everything's virtual now, so it's a virtual world where we can do large sessions with kids virtually, talking to them about why they need to be in a booster. And schools that participate do get some goodies as well as booster seats. So if they want to partake of that, then they can reach out to Children's Hospital Injury Prevention Program. And it's a great tool, I think, because a lot of these schools don't have booster seats and are wanting to give families in need a booster seat. So that's often what we've heard. So we take advantage of that. We provide the education and also supply the school nurse or school with seats so that they can provide families who need it and rightfully so deserve it. We're also the lead of Safe Kids Cumberland Valley Coalition. So that Cumberland Valley serves about 41 counties in Middle Tennessee, and we cover all sorts of safety topics in that, from home safety to newborn care to safe sleep. So there are a gamut of different programs. If you visit our website, Injury Prevention, Vanderbilt Children's Hospital, just Google search it, you will come upon us and all the things we have to offer.
And we will get into your website later, so we'll be able to actually show people everything that you're talking about, so they can learn more. Thank you, Pranima, for joining us. Let's invite our third panelist. His name is Captain Travis Plotzer from the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Welcome, Travis.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning. So tell us about you and what you do.
My name's Travis Plotzer. I'm a captain with the Tennessee Highway Patrol. In our special programs unit, we do a host of things over there, from commercial vehicles to safety education to school bus inspections and a lot of things there in between. With this being Child Passenger Seat Week, I'd like to highlight, we have a lot of car seat technicians or child passenger seat technicians that work for the Highway Patrol. There are several that work for local agencies too, but we take it seriously, and we like getting the word out and partner with everybody here on screen because we all share a passion for people's safety while they're out on the roadway. So excited to be here today for this inaugural event, and excited to see what questions come in and people that interact with us.
Awesome, awesome, great. So these are going to be our subject matter experts today. And as you see, we have people representing the medical field, law enforcement, and the outreach and education that we try to do with children across the state. So at any time, again, please submit your questions into the comment section, and we will try to address them as we go. So let's go ahead and begin the discussion. Let's dive into what we are here for today. I'm going to start with Purnima. Can you tell us the purpose of National Child Passenger Safety Week?
So that's a great question, Ariel. Every day, millions of us travel with our little ones in cars, whether it's to school, whether it's to work, whether it's to after-school activities. And really the goal of National Child Passenger Safety Week is to educate as many parents and caregivers as we can about the importance of child passenger safety and keeping your kiddos in a car seat as long as possible, right? That's kind of a nutshell of it. So what we do is all us experts, and I call us experts because a lot of us are child passenger safety technicians. We actually go through a course to become that, believe it or not. All of us across varying states will want to talk to parents about the right kind of seat to choose for your child, depending on their age and height, whether their seat is installed properly or not, why you need to register your car seat, all those good stuff. We're here to help you really travel with your child safely. And we do that through virtual events right now because we have to do that in many cases because of COVID. If hands-on events are possible, we're out in the community doing fittings, which you'll hear about later on. And we're also using social media a ton because that is the perfect way, like Facebook Live, to reach mass audiences in a very little amount of time. So this is a great opportunity. I'm so excited to be part of this team with these experts here to share whatever knowledge we can with this group. So pump away those questions, ask away those questions, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Awesome, great. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. I'm gonna now go to Julie. You previously had mentioned a CPS or child passenger safety technician. Can you, and Purnima mentioned it as well, can you kind of go a little bit more in depth to explain what that is and how they serve the public?
Sure. So the child passenger safety technician is someone who's been trained through the national certification program, and that involves learning the basic technical knowledge about car seats, booster seats, and seatbelt systems in the vehicle. Every car seat's going to be different. Every child is going to be different, which creates a combination of different needs when you're installing the car seat and making sure you're providing the best form of protection during transit when you're in the vehicle. So anybody can actually participate in this class. It doesn't require any kind of medical background. It doesn't require a law enforcement badge or anything like that. Anybody who has a passion and a desire to understand more about what it's like to install car seats and just have that ability to help and assist in your community. That's what a CPS technician is. We're a resource. We are educators, not necessarily installers. So for those families who want somebody to just install their seat, we're hopefully going to be digging a little bit deeper with you and guiding you so that you become the expert in your vehicle with your car seat, not us. We're not going to be there every time you change seats or vehicles, buy a new vehicle, move it from your car to another caregiver's car. We want you to be equipped to do the installation safely. And so those are some of the biggest points of communication that we want to guide those parents through. So CPSPs, during the course of their certification program, they learn and develop effective communication skills, sharing the information that they are learning to those parents. So we learn it, we practice it, and then we learn how to explain it to those parents out in the field to improve the safe transportation of all children. So one of the ways we actually engage with the community is through car seat checks. That can be an in-person individual event where you're one-on-one, and it can, like Purnima said, it could be a virtual telephone call, video call, where you're doing the hands-on, well, one person hands-on, one person guiding through the phone app or whatever method you're using. But those opportunities can be by appointment or by walk-in. I mean, if there's a technician on staff at any of the local fitting stations, they can help guide parents through those steps necessary to make sure the installation is appropriate and correct. A technician can also discuss transition times, all the misuses that are typical for a car seat installation, and then cover a huge spectrum of all the things that might need to be covered for a family who's learning how to do this for the first time, or for those parents who have new technologies with the new car seats, even though they may have been through 3 or 4 kids already. So CPSTs are available for large group events too, to come out and do community-based events where we would call a car seat checkup event, where there are more hands and ready to get into the cars with multiple families simultaneously. So we have different ways of doing those car seat checks for the families, but each one is going to provide that basic technical information for the families. So everything looks a little bit different now. We've mentioned PPE and social distancing and different guidelines that each agency is going to have to follow. So with each of those events and scenarios, every agency and every CPST is going to handle it differently. So the best case scenario, you're going to schedule some type of appointment or call in advance to see what the guidelines are going to be before you just show up at an agency that has a fitting station or a technician on site, so we can learn how to best protect you and our families during this time of coronavirus, and making sure we're offering, protection from illnesses, as well as making sure people have their kids protected while traveling in our cars. So any more questions?
Well, I was going to add, you did mention COVID and the new changes that you guys have made in order to adapt to that. And you'd mentioned the word PPE. So I just wanted to give you a chance to clarify that, to tell us what PPE stands for.
Okay. So, hey, Captain, you have a really great reference. When we talked about this earlier, we built some, I guess, portable screens that are made from plexiglass that can provide like a shield between parents and technicians as they're getting out in the field and doing hands-on installations. But basically, it's personal protective equipment that could include a mask and gloves, face shields, anything that prevents the transmission of fluids or viruses from one to the other. So a lot of the agencies are actually implementing certain protocols where they are required to wear that, and anybody who comes, and it may involve even actually taking temperatures before you can come on site. So just some different guidelines that we're all kind of getting used to. So
yeah, that's actually really, go ahead, Travis.
Julie, hats off to y'all. Y'all really had to develop and modify as we go along through this. We talked earlier about the PPEs. Looks like we're going in for medical procedures now when we work on these car seat checkup events. And and I'm just hats off to you for the way you adapt and overcome. And we're still learning, but we're all in this together. What I really like is how we're coming together, for everybody's safety, not only in car seat checkpoints, but also preventing the spread of this virus. So it's something we're learning as we go. But at the end of the day, we're all about safety. One thing I really like that you mentioned earlier is, we don't install the car seat. Our goal is to help build the parent or the loved one's confidence level, and to see that light go off when you make them understand how that seat works, how it's supposed to be installed properly, to let them know that, hey, yes, you got to look at your owner's manual in your car, but also the manual for the car seat. And to see those lights go off, to see how those two things work together, that's when you're making a difference. And you build their confidence. So if they have to change cars, or if they have to put a car seat in a different vehicle, they feel confident in knowing that they're going to take care of their child that's in there. And that's what's rewarding out of this, is we're all in this together from different backgrounds. You don't have to be a firefighter. You don't have to be an EMT. You don't have to be a doctor, a nurse, a police officer to install a car seat. And I like how we break it down and get it down on people's level so they understand. While we all share a passion because we have a background, we see when things ultimately go wrong, that drives our passion. But when you see lay people coming together, want to make sure people are safe, that's what it's about. And that's why I'm glad that we offer this CPS course to a host of folks. that are all interested and passionate about car seats.
Awesome. Since I have you, Travis, I wanted to ask, you had mentioned that troopers can be CPS or child passenger safety technicians. Can you kind of elaborate on that in your special programs unit?
I can. You know, a lot of people that work under umbrella of special programs are CPS techs. And that's where we share that passion of people being safe when they're out on the roadways. So we have a host of them, and that's what's unique. Whenever you can go to this website, we'll talk about further about finding these fitting locations and stuff. You can reach out to us. We'll be glad to. You can reach one of our dispatch centers, and we'll be glad to get you in contact with CPS tech that's out there. So I'm pretty excited about that. And these people that work for the Highway Patrol are passionate about making sure people stay safe. We rather work from an educational angle any day versus an enforcement angle because we want to make sure people are safe before a problem happens. That's what it's about.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and address a question that we received from the public. The question we have here is, what are my choices when it comes to child passenger safety seats? And this question was submitted by our very own program manager, Shandy Smith. Thank you so much. That's a very important question. I'm going to ask you, Julie, if you're able to answer that.
Okay, yeah, so there are a couple of different ways to look at it. There are phases of car seats or stages that you want to transport your child safely. The first being rear facing only, which would be your typical infant carrier. Like we said earlier, technologies are changing, car seats are advancing and developing rapidly. A lot of those rear facing seats have higher weight limits. Rear facing offers the best protection in the event of a crash. It supports the head, neck, and spine. And with the harnessing system, it disperses the crash forces over a broader area of the body, but it eliminates pinpointing of any crash forces because that flat webbing is going to help just shield the whole body, but it's going to put the pressure on the stronger parts of the body. And the rear facing offers just that extra cocooning effect with the support to the head, neck, and spine. So rear facing was our first option. Then we have a convertible car seat, which would be a car seat that can go from the rear facing position to a forward facing position. Still offering that harnessing. So again, gonna offer a broader dispersion of crash forces. Then the next would be from a forward-facing harness into a booster seat mode, where you're not using the internal harnessing of the car seat system. You would transition to using the vehicle seatbelt system, and it would be more of a booster seat mode, placing the child on the seat and using the vehicle seatbelt to restrain the child. This also offers additional head support with side impact protection from the shell of the car seat. And so that's stage 3. And then stage 4 would be when they progress and they've grown tall enough, mature enough developmentally to just use the vehicle seatbelt appropriately. And that takes a certain assessment too. So that's called a 5-step test, where they would meet certain abilities to sit still in the car, to sit in the same position with their back against the seat long enough, knees bent, feet on the floor, and to stay that way the entire trip. So that's called the 5-step test, and that's a really critical milestone to be able to meet before they change to just the vehicle seatbelt. Because if they're not ready for the vehicle seatbelt, they're at risk for some additional serious internal injuries. And I think, Purnima, you might want to chime in on that. Yeah. Because transitioning to a booster seat can be really detrimental to a child who's not ready for that phase yet. So do you want to?
Yeah. I mean, I was patiently waiting for Julie to finish. Patience is a virtue I'm trying to learn. But anyway, I completely agree. I mean, Julie tried to explain that, and trust me, it's complicated when you know what you know in the child seat world to explain everything in the way she did. But the two things I did want to say is, for the rear facing seat that she mentioned, kind of looks, you have to place it backwards, if you can imagine that. Or the convertible seat, where you can use it rear facing and then flip it forward facing, right? We always recommend, always recommend, please keep your child rear facing as long as possible. The law is the law, but it's not necessarily best practice, right? So our Tennessee law will say 1 year and 20 pounds, but we will say keep them rear facing as long as possible, people. So as long as that seat allows them and it meets the height and weight restrictions, you want to keep them rear facing. So that could be, some of the seats now, the convertible ones, you can keep them rear facing till 2, 3, 4, right, Julie? And that's fine, because we have parents come and say, what are you talking about? I mean, my child, my 3-year-old can't be rear facing. His legs are too long. He's going to have, injuries to the leg. And I just say crisscross applesauce. You know what? Teach them that, get them to do that, because what we're really concerned about, like Julie said, and what we see a lot coming into the hospital is those head, neck, and spine injuries. So parents, I mean, if your child gets a spine injury or a neck injury, there's often not a whole lot we can do, right? So we truly are passionate about keeping your kids safe, just like you are. So we will always say keep them rear facing as long as possible. And like Julie said, when they do see the world, which they will when they move forward facing, you want to keep them in that 5-point harness, that protective system, as long as possible, as long as, again, the seat allows height and weight. Always important to check that. So buy a seat that allows you to keep them in that harness system longer, right? That's the key to everything. But don't rush them. Don't get them out of that seat into their booster seat if they're not ready for it, because what we've also seen is all this inappropriate behavior that will happen with them trying to move that shoulder belt away. And again, remember, if they're not using that seat belt correctly, again, they're going to flip forward and we're going to see those spinal injuries coming in. So I just wanted to add on to what Julie said. Very important that you don't rush the stages, that you take your time, that you look at the height and weight restrictions that are on your seat, and just give them that safety and security they need. They will push your patience, but that's what they do. That's what they're meant to do. And you just have to be the parent in this and make the choice for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for chiming in on that, Purnima. And so I want to go ahead and segue into discussing Vanderbilt's website and the resources that you guys offer online. So let's go ahead and put your website up. It's childrenshospitalvanderbilt.org. And we're going to look and see what we can view. I believe we're going to put it up on the So tell us the website.
Yeah, so that's our this is one of the programs, because we're focused right now on occupant protection and child passenger safety. We've been very fortunate and blessed over the last several years to be funded through Kohl's. Kohl's, the department store, they have those little stuffed animals and books in front. And every time you purchase it, a lot of the proceeds comes to children's hospitals across the country. So through their Kohl's program, Kohl's Cares program, their philanthropy arm, we've been funded for car seat safety. And so what we've done as part of that funding is it's kind of a multi-pronged approach. We take it. One is educating parents across the board. So we talk about all kinds of things from why you need to be in a car seat, installation mistakes, like Julie said, difference between anchor and tether, and just using your seatbelt, all the things that complicate people and they don't know what to do. So we basically educate parents across the board, whether you're from a particular service or you're calling in, or you happen to be an underserved community or refugee group. We don't shy away from any parent that needs to be educated on it. We also do big, large-scale community events, right? When there's booths available where we can educate people. Right now, that's changing. So right now, a lot of organizations are doing virtual booths. So that has been a new thing for us, which we are exploring, which is super cool, believe it or not. You have all these people coming in, but we learn every day. And then we have our elementary school age group where we go out into schools and also educate parents. So if you go onto our website, you'll find everything about the program. There's tons of information. Also, every week we post something new on articles that parents may be interested in. How do you wear your seatbelt when you're pregnant? Things like that. So all that information is out there for you to use to just grow your knowledge about car seats, keeping your child safe as well as yourself safe.
Awesome. Thank you. So that website is childrenshospitalvanderbilt.org. So check that out.
And just put Cole, you can put, Ariel, just to add on, just put Cole Stay Seat Smart. Cole Stay Seat Smart.
Okay,
Vanderbilt, and it'll pop up.
cool. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Julie, let's pop over to you next. We did have a question about fitting stations and how to get your car seat checked. So I want to go and ask you to tell us where can you go to get your car seat checked?
Sure. So a great resource for the state of Tennessee and anywhere really. We'll take calls or questions from anywhere and try to find the resources that are pertinent to you. But tntrafficsafety.org/CPS, child passenger safety, that has a full bin of resources for parent information, Q&As, frequently asked questions for whatever type of seat you have. Yeah, so there's a great picture of the website. We'll talk about the Tennessee state law requirements, and we'll also direct you to best practice through the FAQs. And we also have links to, like we said earlier, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has a great resource where you can check your age, weight, and height of the child to find out what they did think is the best practice method of transport for your kids. A lot of links in there for technicians, a lot of links in there for schools, resources that you can order, which would be free and shipped to you to do community education and outreach. A great resource that we have for free and everybody's hands-on with their mobile devices. Now we also have the Tennessee, it's called the TN Child Passenger Safety app. It's free for Android and Apple devices, but you can get that app from the whatever store works with your phone. Download that app, and it also has the child seat checker. Plug in your age, weight, and height. It'll tell you best practice, which seat would be recommended for your child to use. Then also tell you what the best app, how it applies to the Tennessee state law. There's also resources in there that'll connect you to the fitting station, a map of all the locations, over 140 in the state currently registered through our app, of those agencies that have a technician on site. And then it will also take you out to those expert resources like Safe Kids Worldwide, who have a plethora of information for not just child passenger safety, but child safety from bike helmets to swimming pools and all that additional information. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration resources, NHTSA, as formally or commonly heard as or referenced as, they have a lot of great resources in there. The Child Passenger Safety Board is also another great resource for parent information. The American Academy of Pediatrics links out from there too. We also link to the car seat manufacturers, because when you're traveling with your car seat so frequently, or it's changing from one vehicle to the next, you might actually lose your car seat manual. You can go to the manufacturer's websites a lot of times and download a PDF. So anytime you have questions about your car seat, you can refer to an electronic version of your manual. Same with the vehicle manual too. So as far as getting car seats checked, the app is a great way to connect directly to a local fitting station or technician. So check out the app, TN Child Passenger Safety.
I'm very pro the app. I use it, keep it on my phone so I can help answer questions and stuff. You see, I keep it on my phone now. Something I use, very pro app. I pro the app, and I'm glad to have it. And it helps. It tells what the state law is, but also talks about best practice and stuff. So that's something Parina mentioned earlier, is about the best practice and stuff like that. And that's what I really like about the car seat app. So great work on that.
Yeah, and the app actually has sections for technicians, for medical personnel, for parents, teachers. Each section has a little bit of a variation in the information that it can link out to. Another great resource that parents may not be aware of for their car seats, there's links to the NHTSA recall list. So every car seat that's ever had an issue, or like damage, like seats that are not meeting the standards originally thought, any of those recall lists would contain that information, so parents can find their seat on the recall list in there. You got a comment, Captain?
Yeah, I do. And I got a question, about this recall list and stuff. Isn't that one of the importance why we have the parents or the guardians mail in the tag or that? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, we do. Every car seat should be registered through the manufacturer. So when you purchase a car seat, it comes with a little postcard attached to it. You just type in or fill in your contact information. They can only use it to contact you regarding recalls. It's not going to put you on some spam junk mail list. They're required to provide that information so they can contact you directly if there's an issue with your car seat. It doesn't come through the fitting station or the technician who helped you if there was guidance from them. They need to contact you directly in the event of a recall. So there's no middleman and they can get directly to you with the information. So that's a great point. Everybody should be registering their car seats.
And
My
just
next
to, sorry,
Go ahead.
just
Go
to add on to what Julie said, sometimes, when you work in certain communities, registering the car seat, putting your personal information, your email can be intimidating because you don't know who's seeing that registration information and if there are going to be consequences to you providing that information. But I think we can all safely say that that is not the purpose of why you fill in the registration card and mail it in. The reason is that in case anything happens with that seat, in case there's a clip that's broken, in case the harness is not working, that manufacturer will contact you and many times send you that part if they can, free of cost, right? So it's really about the safety of your child, and you're not at risk in any way by sending that or mailing that in. So I just wanted to kind of chime in and add to the points that Julie shared around that.
Yeah, and actually it's part of the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard. So FMVSS 213 requires car seat manufacturers to provide that postcard, but they also are limited to what they can do with it legally. So with the information that's provided on that card. So it is a safe way for you to connect with the manufacturer to get the information if it's determined that your seat needs some kind of recall or update. So parents should feel really good about turning that information in.
Awesome. This is very helpful information for the public to know. And everyone, please look in the comments section. You'll notice that we are sharing the links to the sites that we are referencing so that you can find more information. Let's go ahead and take a question from the public. We have a question from Rhiannon Chambers, and she is asking, what specifically do I need to look for to find the safest car seat?
That's a good question. Technicians are trained to help guide, I guess, the selection of the seats. So you're looking for multiple factors. You're looking for, it's going to be based on your child, your vehicle, and whether you can do it the right way every trip, every time. So it's going to vary, but selection, direction, location, installation, those are all factors that have to be considered when the parent is selecting the right kind of car seat for their child. Those broad categories that we all have mentioned, from rear facing to convertible, forward facing, and then booster, that can vary. You may have a 4-year-old child who still would benefit from using a rear facing seat, but then you also have a 4-year-old child who is on the opposite end of the growth chart and maybe is compatible with based on Tennessee law, they may be compatible with a high back booster seat. So the guidance of a technician might really help a parent make the best choice. So anybody else have comments on that?
Yeah, I think one of the things, sorry, Travis, I cut you. What? It's hard when you're doing this to kind of make sure so I apologize. But one of the other things, I think parents also worry about cost, Julie. You have all these fancy seats now out in the market. And every seat claims to have additional, not false claims, but they claim to have additional benefits that can help the child. So I think it really depends a lot also upon your financial ability. If you go onto the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA website, one thing to note is they have a ton of seats. All of them have been crash tested. So you can decide based on your income level. And like Julie said, the age and fit of the seat and your child and the car, which is the right seat for you. But that's what technicians are here for, to help you through those questions that you may have. But know that just because you didn't buy the $200 seat, it's not that your child is not protected. Am I right, Julie?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
All seats meet the minimum federal motor vehicle safety. They're all crash tested and meet the minimum safety standards. And Purnima mentioned that some have additional bells and whistles.
Yeah.
That may offer, different degrees of comfort and support, but they all have to meet that minimum. So if another great resource that we can provide through those fitting stations is sometimes there's that financial support or ability to connect a family with a local agency that can offer that financial support in the event that there isn't that the financial need is just too great and they need assistance with the purchase of a car seat. So connecting with those fitting stations may be a great way to help those families get a seat that they maybe thought they couldn't get. Offering a higher degree of protection in the vehicle, because with every seat, every transition from phase to phase, you're going to lose a degree of protection. Right. So as they transition from the rear facing to the forward facing to the booster seat to the seatbelt, obviously there's that security or those technical aspects of the seat. They're not there anymore. So from the side impact protection of a high back booster seat to a no back booster seat, they all meet the same minimum standards, but some offer more protection. So a family can be guided by a technician as they answer all those questions if they get to do a checkpoint or a checkup event with them. So it's really good to connect with a technician to answer any of those questions if you're purchasing a seat beforehand, so you can get that guidance ahead of time before you spend the money on a seat.
Awesome. Okay. And again, just want to let the public know that a way to find a local fitting station or a local child passenger safety technician is to visit tntrafficsafety.org/CPS. If you're able to visit that site, you'll be able to see that there's a map that tells you pretty much county by county who is considered a fitting station that will be able to service you. So yes, check that out, tntrafficsafety.org/CPS. Thank you everybody for that. And I also wanted to mention that the Facebook user who submitted that initial question was Kim Van Atta, was not Rhiannon. So I just wanted to correct that. So Travis, let's move on to you. I want to ask, what is the role of law enforcement when it comes to preventing child injuries and fatalities?
Obviously we have a couple areas where we could go. We have the educational component, and that's what we really strive to do, is educate the people before it comes to an enforcement role to the needs and why it is imperative that children are properly restrained in their, car seats, whether it's a rear facing, front facing, a convertible seat or a booster seat. We want to stress to them the why. Everybody wants to know the why, and we try to educate them on that, and ultimately it's to reduce injuries and stuff. That's where we're at. If it comes to an enforcement situation, obviously they can be issued a citation, but voluntary compliance is our ultimate goal. What we strive to do in law enforcement stuff is get people to comply without having to take an enforcement action. Sometimes when you see children not restrained properly and stuff, you are able to educate the parent on the why, and I'll tell you, when we talk about that, oftentimes it brings up stories where we've seen where things have gone wrong. And all of us have a passion for car seat safety and child passenger seat safety, I guess we should say. But we share a passion for it because we've seen where things gone wrong or those near misses. Nobody wants to see a child hurt. Nobody. And that's what drives our passion. We can talk to them about, hey, this one time. And, when we talk about this one time, and the reason why we can talk about it is because we still live with that and carry that every day. And that's what provides our passion for what we do.
Awesome. Well, since I have you, Travis, on this topic, I want to go ahead and ask you, can you tell us what the consequences could be if a parent does not have their child in a safety seat, or if the child is not properly restrained?
It could be, there's a host of options that's available to the officer. It could be a verbal warning, a written warning. It could be a written citation, just for merely the infraction of the child not being restrained properly. Obviously think it could complicate things more if there's a crash where somebody's injured and stuff like that. You know, and far as the fines amounts and stuff and possible charges, it just given the circumstance could be different. But also it could vary county by county about fine amounts and stuff, or, you know, court costs that's associated with it. That's some things to look at when you're going there. But ultimately, we hope it never goes to an enforcement situation. We can work on it from an educational standpoint before we ever run into a child that's not properly restrained.
Thank you. So we've talked a lot about resources and the things that parents can do to try to prevent a crash or prevent their child being injured or killed in a crash. So let's now kind of shift gears and talk about what actually happens in that crash or to the child. So Purnima, I want to ask you from your medical perspective, how many child trauma patients do you see per week due to motor vehicle crashes?
Right. So unfortunately, you know, that's the other part of the job that we do that is difficult because we have to see these kids come in. A lot of the kids that we see come in as a result of motor vehicle crashes are either unrestrained or improperly restrained, you know, so it's kind of, it fluctuates between the two spectrums, so to speak. And so typically, you know, we would see in the emergency department, we may see about 2 to 3 cases coming in a week. When we talk about trauma, we're talking about serious cases. So it's not just the cases that come in and get released with minor injuries, but trauma means your injury is severe enough that you have to be admitted to the hospital for a 2 or 3 day. And then if you need to go to rehab, you move to rehab after that. So just in 2019, for example, we saw 232 cases of kids admitted as a result of motor vehicle crashes. So these are just those severe admissions, doesn't include your treat and release. And you'd be surprised, Ariel, to know, I was just looking at some of the numbers, 51% of those cases that were trauma patients in 2019 were under the age of 13, right? So that means 51% of the cases we at our institution saw or under 13, which begs to, you know, question, well, why, right? So it has to be something related or not proper installation or not even being in a car seat, especially, you know, and I get concerned about that all the time, just like we talk to our teens about buckling up and putting away your phones. With the younger ones, what we see on the floor a lot is that they're not in the booster seat. So as soon as they get out of that harness, it's a free ride, right? They're just sitting in the cars and not wearing their seatbelt, or they're wearing the seatbelt inappropriately. So that's kind of a shocking number for us. And, you know, the injuries that come as a result of that, that process where we're not thinking through about why they need to be in a car seat can cause some really devastating injuries for the kids in the future.
Well, let me go ahead and ask you, what can happen to a child during a crash if the car seat is not installed correctly? What are common injuries?
Yeah. So the first thing we often see is the child is not in a car seat, right? So then in that case, or even if it's installed incorrectly, the child is flung forward. That's just a mechanism of, you know, you hit something, there's force, you're thrown out. And so the child is either thrown out of the car, or in some cases, we've also seen kids where the car seat has detached and the child in the car seat have been flung forward under the front dashboard, you know, and have been just lodged there. So what do we see? The head is the first point of impact, right? In that case, so we see a severe TBI or traumatic brain injury. And those kind of injuries, you know, to recoup from that can be years of work. Like you have to have lots of rehab when it comes to just speech therapy, when it comes to occupational therapy, doing basic things, all that gets impacted. Then again, we see the kids who've come in who are not, you know, their boosters seats, for example, they've not worn their seatbelt correctly. So we see those spinal injuries, because I always say the lap and shoulder belt are supposed to work together, right? So if there's a crash, both pieces kind of pull you back. But if you don't have your shoulder belt, guess what? There's nothing to hold you back in front. And you have this lap belt that's going to hold you and restrict you and pull you in, but your spine is going to go flinging forward. And therefore we see those spine injuries. And when you see the spine injuries, sometimes we have kids who are paralyzed, you know, who are quadriplegic or paraplegic. And so the entire life of that child is kind of devastated, right? How do you explain to a child that you may not be able to walk again, you know, because of this kind of injury? So we see the gamut of injuries. A lot of our kids have to go to rehab. And unfortunately in Tennessee, we don't have a pediatric rehab facility. So we have to sometimes send them out to Atlanta or another close by place where they will spend months and years in rehab before they can actually be able to lead somewhat of a fuller life.
And it's very difficult because I know in situations like that happen, you don't anticipate that. You don't really anticipate the long-term effects. So I think it's really important for parents to understand that something as simple as properly installing a safety seat can make the difference between, surviving a crash and having lifelong injuries or rehab. And then there are medical costs that go along with that. So there's so many reasons why you should properly install your child and make sure that they are as safe as possible in the vehicle. So
Ariel, can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
The other thing that I think parents often miss is they think you have to be traveling a long distance, right? So, and I think we say this all the time, that it can be the shortest distance that you're traveling where a crash can occur. You may be the safest driver, but, someone can come and rear end you, or, you have a side impact and your child can go flying out if they're not restrained. So we often think, oh, it's such a short distance to the store or to the school or somewhere else that she doesn't need to buckle up, or he doesn't need to be buckled up, or he's in a car seat, but the car seat's not restrained or the harness is not put on. That's fine. But I think, the time you take to do that is time that is worth it in the end. So just take a moment to think about that.
Travis, you want to add?
Exactly. Nobody ever sets out planning on being involved in a crash. Nobody does. Bad things happen. It might not be the driver, the one that has the child in the car. It could be somebody else. So please take that time, and one thing I'll say is that the children are watching the parent or the driver drive and stuff, and they pick up on those habits at a young age. You start seeing mimic them and stuff like that as it goes on. So please be thinking about those driving habits too, about distracted driving, them wearing their seatbelt. Well, hey, you're not wearing your seatbelt. Why do I have to wear mine? It's time to start those habits early. There's not a question. And that's what's really good about when we have these car seat checkup events and all the Otter and stuff. Those two events really work together in harmony, so we can explain the why both on an adult level, but also on a child level too. And that's what's great about it. So they understand, hey, it's not, mom, dad being, punitive towards me or being upset at me why I got to be in this booster seat or car seat. It's really for my best interest. But we try to make it fun, with all the Otter program. And with the adults, we put it in lay terms that they can understand. And that's what's crucial about it, because nobody wants to go out and be involved in a crash. But ultimately, it's about saving lives and quality of lives and stuff. Any way we can reduce a crash or, reduce injury and crash and prevent the crash at all, that's what we want to do. But we've got to prepare. We've got to prepare for if things go wrong. And that's what's great about wearing, getting the kids started at a young age in these seats and stuff. It's different. It's something that they might not be used to. And, it's some things, and I'd like, just a side note, something just hit me while we're talking, is talk about, with the cold weather coming and stuff, about, I've seen people put the jackets on and stuff. And either one of y'all, if y'all have an opportunity to talk about that, that was something really unique that I learned when I was in the child passenger seat course, as far as the technician course, about, with wintertime and about putting the coat on the child while it's in the car seat. That's some neat takeaways that we can share with folks that's out there. So, Julie, Parina, either one of y'all want to chime in on that?
So sure. So every weather situation provides a different opportunity for families to put their kids in the car. In the cold weather, they do want to wear those bulky coats, but a light layer of clothing, and then actually putting the child in, making sure the harness is snug against the child, where you can't pinch the harness or have any wiggle room, because wiggle room turns into a lot of room in the event of a crash. When all those crash forces multiply the stretching ability of the harnessing or the seatbelts, just put the arms in backwards of the coat, or lay a blanket over the top of the child. Those will provide the warmth in your vehicle, but not decrease the effectiveness of the harnessing for the child. But in the summer, we also have different risks for kids. A lot of parents leave their cars open, and this is not necessarily during traffic or transporting our kids, but a lot of parents don't think about leaving their vehicles locked. So there's a lot to vehicle safety for kids. Like in the summer, cars heat up super fast. So leaving your vehicle locked when it's not driving anywhere means kids aren't going to get into it and use it as a playground. So heat stroke is a big risk factor for kids, thinking they can get into the vehicle if they forgot something or they want to play hide and seek, or, it's just a thing out there. So they go out to the vehicle, they get into the hot car, and then they get locked inside the car and they can't get back out. So I'm sure Pernima's seen some of those types of hospital visits from these people too. So those are some of the things that we are able to talk about with families when they come and visit us, is in and around the vehicle safety for kids, not just in your car seats too. So we'll remind parents of those things. But there are just some basic things that car seats do in the event of a crash. So the idea is to prepare the car seat and the vehicle and the occupant for a pre-crash condition. There isn't enough time during a crash. Most people call it an accident. It's not really an accident because there's a lot of things that could have been done to prevent it from happening. But in the event of a crash, there isn't enough time to respond and buckle up your seatbelt or fix your chest clip on the harness or make sure your child is tight as they could have been. All these things are pre-crash. So you're like you said, you're being preemptive. You're taking on those risks and addressing them before you get into the car. Car seats do the job of keeping the child passenger in the vehicle in a safe space instead of letting them bounce around in the car. Harnesses and seatbelts direct the crash forces over the large part of the strongest parts of the body across the hip and the shoulders, and they spread those crash forces out evenly so that there's no pressure points or areas that are at greater risk from crash forces impacting it. A rear-facing car seat adds that added protection for head, neck, and spinal injuries, a protection against those. And then in a forward-facing car seat, the harness is going to do the same thing. It's also going to keep the head in a secure position. It's not going to allow a lot of forward movement in a crash. And then those systems for adults and for kids, the seatbelt system and the harnessing system of a seat offer that ride down energy. It helps disperse the crash forces, so there's not that extreme pressure or crash force following them during a crash. So that was to bring us back to the car seat. What does it do during a crash? And if we can get that through to the parents and the caregivers to make sure everything is preemptively taken care of by installing the car seat the right way, avoiding those common little mistakes that add up to a huge mistake during the event of a crash, maybe Purnima wouldn't be so busy in the ER. So yeah.
I have two things, and I'm sorry, I'm watching the clock too, because I know, Ariel, we had so many questions that we were hoping we could cover, and maybe for another segment, but is it okay if I chime in just with two things?
Yes, and right after you say your piece, I'm hoping I'll have enough time to answer one final question from the public, and then I'm going to close this out. But go ahead, Purnima.
Okay. So two things, and Julie did a great job of talking about coats, and you don't want to have anything fluffy that's just going to compress during a crash. And then also we see hot car deaths, a lot of them coming in because a child has been forgotten in a car. And I'm just simply going to say, people, put your phone back there, because you will not forget your phone before you forget your, it goes hand in hand. I hate to say it, but if that's a good reminder, it is. The two things I want to say is about secondhand car seats. A lot of times parents will ask us, oh, right, it's so expensive. We got the seat. Can I just use this seat? And we'll always, we are very cautious about that. We don't recommend you use secondhand car seats, only because you don't really know if it's been involved in a crash before, if any part is missing. You're going to have to figure out how to register that seat, and I don't know the process. It's going to be complicated. So your first choice should always be to get a new seat whenever possible. And like Julie said, there are options if you can't financially afford one, to maybe figure out a way of doing it. The other thing is, for those parents who have moved their child forward facing, there is a strap on the back of your seat, people. There is a reason. It's not an extra IKEA part that the manufacturer forgot. It's actually a long strap. And if you've hidden it somewhere behind your car seat, take it out. This is your time to find it, because that's called a tether strap. And what that tether strap does is it's supposed to be connected to an anchor point in the back of your seat. And the anchor point can be found if you look at the car seat manual. You will know it's not just any point. You have to know the right point to anchor that seat to. And it helps you tighten up that seat so that that seat doesn't flop forward and your child's head and neck is not flopping forward. And that can cause a serious injury. So I think Safe Kids had done a recent report that said more than 64% of parents apparently are not using their tether straps. So super important. We've been plugging that a lot. I just wanted to make sure, sorry, I got that in before we ran out of time.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead, if we can, let's throw up this last question. It is from Facebook user James Bronner. And he is asking, since it is Child Passenger Safety Week, is there any way to find local events that he can attend or recommend? So I wanted to mention this to plug the website again, tntrafficsafety.org/CPS. There's a calendar of events on that webpage and contact information for Julie Brewer so that you can reach out to her if you have any questions or want to volunteer or in some way participate. So this pretty much concludes our event. Thank you so much, everyone out there in the Facebook world, for engaging with us and sending us your questions. I want to thank our speakers, Ms. Purnima Uni with Vanderbilt, Julie Brewer with the Tennessee Occupant Protection Center, and of course, Travis Plotzer, who is a captain with Tennessee Highway Patrol. So again, if you have any questions regarding things that we weren't able to address, please email jbrewer@tntech.edu, and it's at the bottom of your screen, because I know there was a couple questions we couldn't get to. So jbrewer@tntech.edu, or just message us on the Ollie Otter page. Thank you so much, everyone. That concludes our time.
Thank
and
you.
drive safe out there.
Bye, everybody.